Okay.
Welcome back to the Coach Show. It's week 2, and we're back in the hot seat with head coach David Schuster of your Mission Prep Royals. We got one game under our belt. Didn't quite go our way, but it was a tight-knit ball game. 13-8 was our score against the Bakersfield Christian Eagles. Coach, let's just talk about the game as a whole first before we break it down. Talk about how well your Royals played against a tough defensive squad, the Bakersfield Christian Eagles.
Yeah, obviously it didn't go our way, but we walked off that field feeling like, there's a lot there to build on, and there's a lot to be excited about with this squad. You really felt like defensively we did a lot of good things. They executed a lot of the things we wanted defensively to keep us in the game. We had a couple of main goals, and for the most part, we achieved all those goals. I felt like we tackled actually very, very well, which doesn't always happen week one. And so that was very encouraging to see. And if that's kind of where we're starting the year tackling, then that's exciting to me, because I feel like by the time we get later in the year, we could really be rocking and rolling at that point. Obviously offensively, we had a ton of issues. There were every single position you could look across the board, somebody was making a major error, and that's typical for week one. But the frustrating part is I think everyone kind of walked off the field feeling like we should have won that game, and all we needed was one or two drives. Really, we just needed one drive where we could, not even necessarily score, just burn some more clock, and we probably walk off that field winners. And so, hard lesson. I know everyone's kind of been, looking and discussing, the touchdown right at the very end. I want to say this very quickly. Jaden Ozil played an incredible football game. He actually graded one of the highest defenders for the day. And he kind of he saw two receivers both on the numbers and got really just kind of over eager on it and felt like he could make a play if that ball was thrown on the numbers. And I think they kind of set him up perfectly. And he just kind of got slightly out of position. He was not the reason we lost the game. The fact that we could not move the ball on offense was the reason we lost the game, truly. And so, very disappointed with a number of things up front. Felt like our offensive line did not play very well, and they already know that. This is on Wednesday now. It has been actively reaffirmed to the team what we were looking at on offense. And so I'm excited for an improved performance on offense this week, and hopeful for we have an incredibly tough opponent. And but I will say, I felt like the team was incredibly physical. I felt like the team had great energy, and we achieved most of the goals, just not all the goals that we had for us to win the game. And so for week one, I can't be upset with that. We didn't have too many penalties, no delay games. I think we had one false start penalty. And so there's a lot there where I'm going, okay, we're starting off on a good spot against a great team, great program, and excited to see how this goes the rest of the way.
Let's talk about the touchdown you scored in the second quarter. A little trickery coming out of the playbook with a bounce pass from your quarterback, Drew Souza, to Glenn Thomas, who then connects for a 65-yard touchdown to a wide-open Luke Terry. Talk about where that play came from and why you pulled it out of the deck when you did.
We've had that play for a long time. I think my first or second year, I think it was the second year, 2018, we ran that play as well. And then unfortunately, a kid who I love dearly, May Sherlock, dropped the ball, but he was wide open. So it's just something we've had. There's a ton of trick plays that we have in our playbook, and when we feel it fits the team best or it's most appropriate, we pull them out. And so this was one that we've kind of been working on for a little bit, in anticipation that we might need it week one. And so, Drew, I felt like the kids played it perfectly, and Drew throws a great bounce pass backwards, and everyone does what they always do. You see the ball hit the ground, and everyone stops for a second. And Thomas Glenn took it and read it perfectly, had a little bit of pressure, and so got rid of the ball quicker than I think he wanted to, but I think it worked out perfectly. And Luke is one of the fastest kids on the Central Coast, so we give him the ball in space and he's gone. So it was exciting to see it happen. We had a bunch of football alumni on the sideline, and Kobe White, the Loeras, a bunch of other kids, JJ, and the first question from all of them was, "How come we didn't get to run that play?" And each team is different. They all got their own trick plays, and so just one that we felt like would fit this team a little bit better. So
As I saw the play developed, I waited for the whistle and didn't hear the whistle. So I kept calling the play, and luckily I did because it worked out. Because you never want to have the egg on your face as the announcer and call a play dead while the play continues to go live. There's just egg on your face. So I got the call right. I was tricked for about a split second, just like the defense, but I picked up that it was a backwards pass, and we were still live because there was no whistle. Play to the whistle, right, Coach?
Yep.
Coach, let's talk about the defensive side of the ball. Tremendous pressure coming by way of Connor Lopez on the quarterback. Even getting a sack in the process, possibly a couple of sacks. I haven't seen the final stats on it officially, but his pressure on the offensive side of the ball creates a lot of hurry up for the quarterback, a lot of pressure for the running back. At that point, their offense gets flustered. How crucial was he leading that defense Friday night?
Oh, he was amazing. I felt like he was great in putting the defense in the right spot all night. He's a very instinctual kid. He's incredibly athletic, and that I think that certainly showed Friday night. His ability to kind of slide in and out of gaps and rapidly get to the ball. He's incredibly athletic coming off the edge. He's hard to block, and he's a great tackler in space too. That's the other thing that I don't think people realize is putting him in space one-on-one with a great athlete. We like our chances with Connor out there, and so the final numbers we haven't posted stats yet, but I know he had a great night. Double-digit tackles. I will say Lucas Elmerick is another young man that really showcased, and maybe doesn't show up on the stat line, but he clearly influenced the game all night long. His physicality on the perimeter, and he's a very athletic kid too, and his ability to take away some of the things on the perimeter that they were trying to get to, and so by the time we got to midway through the third quarter, the whole defense was sitting there going, we pretty much we've seen all the plays, and so then everybody just sort of settled in, and you could see it. Like, we had very few missed tackles in the second half. We were very physical in the second half. And we had, I think that's the part that hurt so much, was we just felt like we completely had them figured out. And Armin Clayton was incredibly physical on the other side. They're running screens to his side, toss and H swings out there, and we pretty much were taking it all away. And we took away all their deep shots, and you could just see the quarterback sort of scrambling around. And then our D line at that point started doing a much better job in the second half of closing those gaps and giving them nowhere to run. So really felt like our defense did a great job of seeing things, recognizing things, and adapting quickly to the game. And there's again, didn't go our way, but there's just so much to build on there that pretty excited about where we're at there.
Well, Coach, I told you I didn't have any oddball questions for you this week, but I do have one. We had a candidate apply for a position during our broadcast last Friday called wanted to be our sideline reporter, and it's a name that I think you might know. He says he has a lot of references, including knowing the head coach personally, and Josh Schuster wanting to be our sideline reporter. And I want to know what kind of credentials and references you'd give him.
Well, Josh is a goofball. That's the first thing.
That's so am I. That's why I'm doing this to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Love my little brother dearly. And he and I grew up being goofballs all the time, and I think he's way more talkative, and he's way more charismatic than I am, and so he's far better looking too. Can't beat me in a fight, but he's better looking. I'll give him that. And so he'd certainly have a good face on TV, and he'd be running up and down the sideline with great energy and getting great interviews, and you know, he'd probably be a great sideline reporter.
Well,
You know,
well, we checked his references. He's hired. Come on down, Josh. Okay,
I,
coach.
I think his commute would kill it, but
Yeah, we
all
could
good.
try. He could be our sideline reporter from the chat. We'll allow that. Because he's always active in our chat along with a number of other Royal faithful. So we do appreciate those who chime in on our chat and engage during our broadcast. We do love them. The Harrigan family, the Schuster family across the board. There's a number of other families as well. I'm drawing a blank on. But the Clayton family, another one that was very active Friday night. So we do appreciate everybody. But coach, let's talk about playing inside a college stadium for the first time for your squad. It was a crucial game to play because next week or this week, you travel to Santa Barbara and you're back in another college stadium at La Playa Stadium. So you already got your feet wet playing in big venues. How important was that to get that out of the way going into game two?
Well, it wasn't really factored in, but certainly is a huge benefit that I don't think we've ever played in a stadium, had any game in a stadium quite like what the environment was Friday night. It's the stadium is it's a D1 stadium, and those always feel just very different. The bleachers are right there on top of you. It's a lot louder. It's significantly more beautiful than you know our great home, but it's not quite Mission Prep, or it's not quite Cal Poly, and so the speaker system I think was something that we all had to get used to. The headsets were great, thankfully, but there was a legitimate issue where like the crowd noise and the way the stadium is constructed, like it's going to hold the noise in a little bit differently, and you kind of know it, and you don't really think about it a whole lot until the game actually starts, and you're just going like, maybe it's not packed nearly like what it would be for a Cal Poly football game, but it's certainly a lot louder than you expect it to be. And so it's just like a lot of different things like that, and then just kind of getting your bearings with the scoreboard, and just it's minor things, uh, but it's all stuff that factors into how comfortable do you feel on the field, and so I was very happy that felt like our kids adapted quickly to it, and then at some point it just becomes a regular football game. So certainly feel very good going into Santa Barbara, and the opponent is pretty tough, but I think the stadium environment won't be an issue for the kids. So
And La Playa Stadium right there on the coast, overlooking the Santa Barbara Harbor. There's only one side to the bleachers because the other side is the coastline, and it's an absolute beautiful venue to watch a sporting event from football, track. I've been there only for track and field, but still a beautiful venue to partake any venue at any event at. Excuse me. And coach, let's talk about I wanted to compare, like, I feel like the best venue we've been at before Cal Poly was Orosi. I want to go back a couple years when we played that playoff game out at Orosi. That tough was a 52-51 game where it went down to the nail biting wire.
yeah.
That was a beautiful stadium. They had that video board where they were playing like clips from the game over it. That was very competitive with almost a junior college stadium.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of all the different places we've been. Um, Rosie's probably number one, number two.
Sure.
Uh, yeah, that's a hard game to talk about still, but that one I'd say Bakersfield High School.
Oh yes,
That
yes.
was also both of those stadiums. You just Bakersfield High School is it's legendary. The stands are awesome, and then yeah, Rossi, and then I'd say Cal Poly. So in no particular order, I'd say those are the top three for sure. So
For sure, yeah, definitely. And let's move on to this week's game where you hit the road to play against Bishop Diego Cardinals. They're 0-1. And this comes from newshawk.com, a little clip from their tweet. Bishop Diego football came up 6 inches short of a walk-off win in the season opener as Foothill picks up a clutch goal line stop for a 31-28 win on Saturday at La Playa Stadium. So I thank the News Hawk for covering that for us. So they came up short of a win, so they're itching for their first win, just like your squad is. So this is going to be another tough battle. What do you want to bring to the table to put the Cardinals to rest?
Well, the tough part about all this is, all the years I was at Grace Brethren, we, as Grace Brethren rose, Bishop Diego was rising at the same time. And so pretty much every single year, Bishop and Grace were competing against each other for a league title. And so every game I've ever been in against Bishop Diego has had major ramifications in it. And I will tell you, every year I've ever coached against them, it was an absolute war and an absolute dogfight. And they're an incredibly well-coached program. They're very, very physical, just like we are. And they do a lot of things up front, and they got some dudes to back it up. It's going to be one of the most impressive physical teams we've ever faced since I've been here. We leveled up on this game purposely so, and it was a little bit of a playing outside of our comfort zone or scheduling outside of our comfort zone. But I felt like this was a year where we could take that chance and just kind of see what it looks like. And so, we might very well show up and get completely blown out. We also might show up and this might be an absolute war. And I will say, Coach Crawford has been there for a long time. They've got a legendary program. And our kids are going to have to do an incredible job of stopping their run game. We're going to have to be very physical at the point of attack. I think there's a couple pathways for us to win this game. I don't know that I would have said that a couple weeks ago, but after Friday night and then watching the film on Bishop Diego and just kind of seeing where both of us are at, I feel like there is a pathway for us to win this game, but we're going to have to play great football. And but that's exciting to me. I feel like that's going to raise the level of competition for our kids, and we're going to kind of get to see on Friday night, like, just exactly where we're at, how far do we actually have to go, and I think it'll be a reference point for the rest of the season in terms of being able to go, this is probably going to be the biggest, most physical team that we play all year, and how well do we handle that, and kind of where we go from there. So I'm excited about the challenge. It is a huge challenge for sure. But it's one that I think the kids and myself and the rest of the staff are real excited to take on.
And Coach, my final question for you today is, how do you prepare your squad at 27 members to compete against other rosters with that come in 40, 50, 60 deep? How do you prepare them mentally? Because physically they're prepared. You've got them prepared on the field as best you can. How do you prepare them mentally to not feel defeated or feel overwhelmed by the numbers coming at them when they go out, step onto the field against these squads?
It's a great question. I'll say that I won't give away all the secrets, but I'll say number one, we build the team with a little bit of a chip. There's hey, you're going to have 30 kids on the team, and everybody we play has 60 to 70 kids, and so there's a lot there that the kids can kind of feel a little bit of like we're the underdog and everyone disrespects us, and more often than not that's true. And so it's not like propaganda. It's usually how the game goes. It's usually how the pre-games go. Everyone shows up and they see all of our kids, and there's a lot of like, oh, all right, these guys, which we love. It just kind of feeds into what we're pushing anyway. And so, and then there's also the fact of, most of the programs you see, yeah, maybe they have 70, 80 kids, but the teams that are actually, the kids that are actually on the field are usually about 20 to 30 kids anyway. And it's about what we got now. And so, who's actually making a contribution for that 80-man roster, about the same size as our team. And the reality is, for us, every single kid gets coached. Every single kid has great value. Every single kid is known. I know every single kid in the program. I know every single kid's story. I know them by name. They've all sat in my office because with a smaller roster, I can spend time with them. I can actually invest in them. And what that creates in a number of other ways with the assistant coaches, with the kids themselves, is an incredibly tight-knit group. And we've also adapted a lot of, the Marine Corps is the smallest branch of the military by a lot. And the way they train, the way they operate, the way they think, the way they talk, there's a mentality of kind of like this tip of the spear mentality that the Marine Corps really exudes that I think we do as well. Myself being in the Marine Corps, Gunny having been in the Marine Corps, there's a lot of that kind of naturally built in, and so I think the kids get it, they understand it, and there's a huge value piece that comes with that. And so by the time we get on the field, our kids are very well trained. They lift very hard. They condition very hard, and they understand the challenge in front of them, that they got to be physically ready to go all 4 quarters, potentially going both ways. And so they train their bodies and their mind that way, starting all the way in February. And I think by the time we get to our first game, and hopefully throughout the year, assuming we stay healthy, you know, our kids are going to be in a great spot, and they're going to know what's going on. They're going to know the plays, and they're going to be very tight knit with each other. And people often forget it's the tight knit bond that will actually win the game. It's not necessarily, well, we got better athletes. And so at least that's the case in football. So we put all that together, and it gives us a great program. So
appreciate that, Coach. Coming up this Friday night, 7 p.m. PSNtv on the YouTube channel. Follow us on prepsportsnetworks.com for all your information for where to find our games, or on the X, I'm assuming that's what we're calling it now, formerly known as Twitter, the PrepSN. You can follow me on Twitter, Stanley on Sports, Coach_Schuster. If you want to find Coach David Schuster on Twitter as well. Coach, appreciate you being with us today. We'll see you Friday night live from La Playa Stadium in the beautiful city of Santa Barbara. Our only Southern Section contest against the Bishop Diego Cardinals. Both teams looking for their first win of the season. Stay tuned right here on PSN TV Friday night, 7 p.m. Thank you for your time. We'll see you then.